So you see this big, flashy return number on your mutual fund statement, and you get excited. I mean, who wouldn't? But what's really going on behind that number? We're going to peel back the layers and figure out how to truly understand how a fund is performing.
All right, let's imagine this. You log into your account and you see it. Your fund is up 15%. Fantastic, right? Time to celebrate. But hold on a second. Is that 15% return actually any good?
The honest answer is it totally depends. It depends on what you're measuring it against, how much risk was taken to get that return, and, whether the person managing your money actually earned their fee. So let's unpack all of that. Okay, first things first. To know if that 15% return is a gold medal or just, a participation trophy, you need a proper yardstick. And in the world of investing, that yardstick is called a benchmark. So, what is a benchmark? Well, think of it simply as the score to beat. For a fund that invests in big Indian companies, for example, its benchmark is probably a market index, like the Nifty 50. It just makes sense, right? You have to compare the fund to how the overall market it's playing in actually did. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because not all yardsticks are measured the same way. And for a long time, the way we compared funds to benchmarks was, frankly, a little unfair. And that brings us to a really crucial difference you need to know about. On the one hand, we had the old way of doing things, the Price Return Index, or PRI. It literally only looked at the price changes of stocks. But wait, mutual funds also earn money from things like dividends, right? Well, that's where the Total Return Index, or TRI, comes in. It captures both the price changes and all those dividends. And since February 2018, SEBI has made it mandatory for all funds to use a TRI benchmark. So why is this such a big deal? Well, think about it. A fund's return includes those dividends it earns. So comparing that to a benchmark that doesn't is like giving the fund a head start in a race. It's not a fair fight. Using the TRI makes sure you're actually comparing apples to apples. It gives you the real, unfiltered picture of performance. Okay, so we've got our yardsticks sorted, we're making a fair comparison. But we're not done, not by a long shot, because a 15% return you get from a wild, roller coaster ride of a fund is very different from a 15% return you get from a slow and steady one. This brings us to the hidden number in every performance, risk. Now, the key tool we use for this is something called the Sharpe ratio. I know, it sounds a little technical, but the idea is actually super simple. It basically measures your bang for your buck. It tells you how much extra return you got for the amount of risk you took on. The higher the Sharpe ratio, the better. Anything over 1 is generally considered pretty good. All right, let's make this real. Take a look at this. Fund A has a higher return, 18%. Looks like the winner at first glance, right? But hold on, its risk level is a whopping 20%. Now look at Fund B. A slightly lower return, sure, but with only half the risk. And when you do the math, the Sharpe ratio tells the true story. Fund B is the clear winner here. It gave a much smarter, much more efficient return for the risk involved. And that really just hammers home the point. The best performance isn't just about chasing the biggest number. It's about the quality of that number. You always have to ask, how rocky was the road to get here? Okay, final piece of the puzzle. We've got the right benchmark, we've accounted for risk, but there's one last crucial question. Did the fund manager actually add any value? Or did they just get lucky because the whole market went up? This is what we call the quest for alpha. You can think of alpha as the fund manager's final report card. See, based on how the market is moving and how risky the fund is, that's what we call beta, we can kind of predict an expected return. Alpha is the magic bit. It's the return above that expectation. A positive alpha means the manager outsmarted the market. A negative one, well, not so much. And this visual just makes it click. So let's say, based on its risk and the market, the fund was expected to deliver 12%. But the manager, through their smart picks and strategy, actually delivered 15%. That 3% difference, that is positive alpha. That's the value you're paying for in an actively managed fund. So this is all great theory, right? Look for the right benchmark, check the risk, find the alpha. But where on earth do you actually find all this stuff? Well, let's get your investor toolkit ready. The good news is all this information is out there.
The Scheme Information Document, or SID, is kind of the fund's official rulebook. But for a quicker look, the monthly fund fact sheet is your best friend. And of course, the fund company's own website and the MFI India website are absolute gold mines of data.
And hey, while you're looking through those documents, keep an eye out for this little guy, the riskometer. It's a super simple visual gauge that instantly tells you a fund's risk level, from low all the way to very high. It's a fantastic first check to see if a fund's risk profile even fits your own comfort level. So if you take just one thing away from all of this, let it be this. Don't get hypnotized by a big, shiny return number. The real secret to smart investing is to look behind that number. You have to understand how it was made, what it's being compared to, and how much risk was taken along the way. Don't just chase returns, understand them. The best part is you now have the tools to think like a pro. You know what to look for, you know the right questions to ask, so I'll just leave you with this to think about for your own portfolio. What are you really after? Is it the highest return or the smartest one?